I'm a dire Houston Cyclones fan, and this one thing almost ruined college sports. My name's JJ Caldwell. Welcome back to Cyclone Kingdom. The Brendan Sorsby saga is finally over. It took a matter of weeks, but it felt like months and years, that Brendan Sorsby officially enters the NFL Supplemental Draft and is ineligible for college sports for the rest of his life. How did we get here? What happened to get us to the point where we were worried about the future of college sports? It's because of Texas Tech. It's because of how they handled the Brendan Sorsby situation. We've talked ad nauseum, both on Cyclone Central and here at Cyclone Kingdom, about who is responsible for Brendan Sorsby, who is responsible for his actions. He himself is responsible for many of the things. He is a human being, as someone who is accountable to God, has a lot that he needs to work on. But who else is responsible? What other third parties were responsible in the ways that he illegally betted on games for multiple years? Guys, he'd been betting on games since 2022. We've touched on all of that. So what do we now look at now that the saga has officially ended? Well, for one, let's start on a positive note. College sports are saved. Because if Brendan Sorsby was allowed to play college football this year, if he had even taken a snap and somehow, in a freak injury, gotten injured and out the rest of the season, even that one snap would have been a death sentence for college football and for college sports. Because it would have shown you can get away with anything and still play football. So on a positive note, college sports are saved. We're in a good spot. It seemed like the NCAA and the Big 12 and hopefully other conferences understand how to handle these situations. Another positive, Brendan Sorsby made a mature decision. He finally, after a lot of boneheaded mistakes, made a mature decision for his future to go play football. Guys, he's a first-round talent. When he plays at his best, he's a first-round talent in the NFL. Now, there's going to be a lot of questions NFL teams have for him. There's going to be a lot of questions owners have for him. There's going to be a lot of questions that psychiatrists and people that are counseling him have for him about his gambling addiction. He's not just going to be able to walk into an NFL organization and just be able to play right away. There's a lot going on with him mentally. And what kind of a role is that going to play in the future of his career? So there's two positives that came out of this, but there's also a ton of negatives. As we've already talked about with the Texas court system, with the NCAA and their lack of power. But one thing we didn't talk about, and one thing that I really regret looking back on earlier this week when the leadership video came out and we were talking about Texas Tech's leadership and how admirable it is that they care about Brendan Sorsby, the person. I'm thankful for that. But I regret never looking at it from the legal standpoint. Because we've looked at it from the legal side in a lot of different ways, but we never applied the legal side to Texas Tech. And here's the reality about Texas Tech. No, they didn't break any rules, technically. Technically, they didn't break any rules by, having Brendan Sorsby on their team. But here's what they did do. They had a liar and a gambler as a part of their football program. And with Cody Campbell's letter a couple days ago or last night, when this decision was finally made for Sorsby to enter the supplemental draft, Cody Campbell talked about them having to do background checks and having to make sure that they thoroughly investigated Sorsby before they invited him onto the team. Did they know? Did they know about everything that was going on with Sorsby before he even got there? We've talked a lot about Indiana and what role does Indiana play in this? Why aren't people criticizing Indiana more? That's still a discussion to be had. But guys, Texas Tech could have easily put this to rest by saying he can't be a part of our team. He's ineligible. He's not allowed to be a part of a college football team, and he needs to go on his way. But they care about the person. And as admirable it is that they care about the person, they're now under the gun because they housed the guy who was going to kill college sports. They never once said, guys, they never once said Brendan Sorsby is not playing this year. They never once said that. Now, they didn't imply that he was immediately going to play after his 2-game suspension, but they never outright said, Joey McGuire, Texas Tech athletic director, whoever it was, they never outright said Brendan Sorsby is not playing football. If they had said that, I think everyone would have let them off the hook a lot easier. But the whole 20-minute video about this, that, or the other, we have our health and well-being center, blah, blah, blah. That's great. What about legally? What about the legal implications of you housing Brendan Sorsby on your campus? Of you allowing him in weight rooms and facilities and keeping him around while he has an investigation going on? My take on it, that's why I believe Brendan Sorsby left. Is he realized Texas Tech is going to fight this. And they're going to double down about this. And I need to get out before it's too late. So, where do we go from here? We're thankful that the Big 12 stepped up. I mean, my respect for the Big 12 grew tremendously in the past 48 hours. The ways that their athletic directors have stepped up. The way that Brett Yormark has stepped up and said, we believe that college athletes who bet on games and bet on their own team are ineligible. We believe that's wrong. That's the right take to have. Texas Tech never got there. Texas Tech never got to the point where they cared about Brendan Sorsby enough to say, we have to let you go. Because if they cared about him enough and they cared about their university enough, they would have let him go. Because they haven't, here's the bigger point people are forgetting. Because they didn't, and because they haven't in the entire process, they now have to answer the bell. And they now have to answer whatever sanctions come to them, which, by the way, are incoming from the NCAA. Might not be for this season, might not be for next season. But sooner or later, your role in this, Texas Tech, is going to come back to bite you. Texas Tech fans getting on social media all day yesterday saying, we're too good for the Big 12. I don't even know why we're part of the Big 12. We're the best thing the Big 12's ever had. Because of one good year? Because of one good year, you all of a sudden think that you're now the premier program in the Big 12. Life comes at you fast, guys. You went from a top 10 quarterback who gambled to a third-string quarterback who's group of 5 now in a span of 24 hours because your backup quarterback is still recovering from an ACL. I don't know what else to tell Red Raider fans, man. Like, learn your lesson and take your lumps. Wear it on the chin and move on. Stop trying to duck punches because you think that you got done wrong. That people tweeting out, Texas Tech didn't do anything wrong. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. And the legal implications of that could be catastrophic for Texas Tech University. Now, did you do something wrong in the sense of what Brendan Sorsby did? No. That's not what we're saying. Anyone who thinks, any Red Raider fan that thinks we're talking about that Texas Tech illegally betted on games, we don't believe that. Anyone believes that they were in bed with Brendan Sorsby about it and they were helping him get, we're not saying that. What we are saying is that you had him on your campus as a part of your football program after he admitted he illegally betted, and you still stood up for him. You stood up for a college criminal. Are there criminal charges going to be? No. But from a college sports standpoint, you stood up for someone that broke the rules. And that is indefensible. Calling Brendan Sorsby a great leader and someone who is great around his teammates. Are you serious? Are we out of our minds? This is why Texas Tech is going to learn a hard lesson through this. And the lesson that they're going to have to learn, similar to a lot of other schools that would have to learn the same lesson if it was found out about them, because newsflash, Texas Tech isn't the only one doing this. Texas Tech is the only one that has athletes that are illegally betting. They're just not as well known. This is the lesson Texas Tech is going to learn. Let him go. Let him go. Let him be a free agent college athlete and let somebody else deal with it. If you actually cared about Brendan Sorsby, if you actually cared about his future, guys, he's not going to just be a part of an NFL team like that. I'd be shocked if he even gets picked up in the supplemental draft. Yes, he's talented, but guys, his head is in a bad place right now. And you didn't help him at all, Texas Tech. All you did was enable him. You enabled him. And you have to deal with the consequences. So, thankfully the saga is over. Thankfully this is the last video we'll do on it. But I wanted to get my final thoughts on it. Head over to Cyclone Central and like and subscribe to the YouTube channel over there. We gave a ton of thoughts and our instant reaction. on our exclusive Iowa State podcast over there. But leave your comments down below. What do you think about the Brendan Sorsby situation? What do you believe about where college sports goes from here? And what do you believe about Texas Tech's role in this? And do you think there's going to be any consequences to their actions? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like and subscribe for all Chiefs and Cyclones content. And as always, roll Clones. And how about those Chiefs?